Once again, good evening, everyone, and thank you for sharing your Tuesday evening with me. I want to especially thank Dr. Ross for having the vision for AI certification for curious learners like myself and giving a platform to amplify our voices. To the ladies in my court, thank you for all the encouragement and support on this journey that brought us here tonight. So, with that said, let me start with a question. What if the greatest untapped resource in our communities isn't money? What if it's knowledge? What if it's relationships? What if it's culture? For nearly 2 decades, I have worked in the Chicagoland Caribbean community, and I have seen extraordinary talent. I have seen entrepreneurs, artists, educators, leaders, and visionaries, but I also saw something else. I saw people working hard without the systems needed to help them grow. Today, I want to share how artificial intelligence is helping us move from culture to code. I am going to show you how AI is building the Caribbean diaspora's future. Not by replacing people, but by helping communities build the infrastructure they've always deserved. I am Deon Lopez. I am the co-founder of 312 Caribbean. I am the executive director of the Caribbean Association of Midwest America and what I proudly call the Caribbean AI Concierge. For almost 20 years, my work has focused on one mission: creating visibility, opportunity, and economic empowerment for Caribbean people. Long before I discovered AI, I was building events, partnerships, and community connections. AI did not give me a purpose, AI gave me a vehicle. So I want you to let that sit for a minute. AI became my vehicle. It allowed me to take years of experience, relationships, and vision and begin building systems at a scale that was previously out of reach. So, who am I? In 2008, we founded the Caribbean Association of Midwest America through events like the Chicago Jerk Festival and the Chicago Caribbean Carnival. We brought thousands of people together. The music was amazing. The food, well, if you've had jerk, you know that's amazing. The culture was amazing. But eventually, I found myself asking the difficult question: where do people go to find Caribbean businesses in Chicago? Where do entrepreneurs connect? Where do organizations collaborate? Where does opportunity live? That question ultimately led me to create 312 Caribbean with 4 or 5 other brains behind me. The problem was the gap nobody was talking about, that we're culturally rich but digitally invisible. Chicago is home to people from dozens of Caribbean nations. Yet, despite our numbers, our visibility remains fragmented. Businesses operate in silos, organizations compete for attention, information travels primarily through word of mouth, and while word of mouth is powerful, it doesn't scale. We had culture, we had talent, we had community. What we lacked was infrastructure, and that became the problem that I wanted to solve. This gap isn't unique to just the Caribbean community. The same gap shows up across nonprofits everywhere. As I continued this work, I realized something important. It wasn't just a nonprofit problem. It wasn't a community problem. It wasn't an organizational problem. Everywhere I looked, I found passionate people doing meaningful work, but many lack systems, they lack processes, they lack scalable infrastructure. The challenge wasn't vision, the challenge wasn't execution, the challenge was not sustainability. The challenge was growth. And if you have done any kind of community nonprofit work, especially when they're small, you understand. So, how do we use culture as the blueprint? Elevating culture has always been the goal, but my knowledge and expertise is the blueprint. And this is where many conversations around AI get it wrong. They focus on the technology first, they focus on culture first. AI can process information, but AI cannot build trust. 17 years of relationships you can't download from a data set. Nuances of cultural knowledge that no algorithm can train to understand. AI cannot attend community meetings for 20 plus years. AI cannot understand the nuances between 37 Caribbean nations. AI cannot replace lived experiences. Culture is the blueprint. Relationships are the blueprint. Trust is the blueprint. AI is simply the vehicle that helps us build it faster. So, how was it before AI? Before AI, many of these projects would have required significant money, staff, and outside consultants. So, investor pitch decks, sponsorship packages, social content, vendor and event systems, money, money, money. And if you're a small not for profit organization that's barely keeping the roof over your head, that money is hard to come by. With AI, we can do an investor pitch in a single evening, collaborating with everybody together. We get to move faster. We can test ideas quicker. We can do our sponsorship package same day in-house. We can produce professional materials without massive budgets. And AI didn't replace our vision. It simply multiplied our capacity. So how does code meet community? What we built, lean, fast, and intentional. Once we combine community knowledge with AI tools, things took off. We created investor materials, marketing systems, branding assets, event infrastructure, vendor systems, ticketing systems, community outreach campaign. We even built merchandising workflows that automatically connect products, artwork, and fulfillment. We also created a 312 Caribbean merch app, and we created an AI image prompt generator that connects all 37 Caribbean nations with Chicago landmarks so people can build their own Caribbean identity with a Chicago attachment. Not because we're a large corporation, but because AI allowed a small team to think really big. So AI is the great equalizer. And this is my biggest lesson. AI is not a shortcut to success, it is a force multiplier. Communities with vision can now accomplish things previously reserved for large organizations. The cost of building has dropped dramatically. The barriers to entry have dropped dramatically. Small organizations can now compete in ways that were impossible just a few years ago, and that changes everything. Our small communities can now think and build like the big enterprises. Our outside investment needed to launch the 312 Caribbean platform, absolutely nothing. It represents 37 Caribbean islands. It involves 17 plus years of experience amongst the whole group. And all it took was one clear vision. It changes everything. So the economic infrastructure is not just culture. There isn't just cultural preservation, it's an economic infrastructure designed to create visibility, partnerships, and wealth circulation within the Caribbean diaspora. When people hear the word culture, they often think of celebration. They think of music, they think of food, they think of festivals. Those things matter, but culture is also economics. Culture creates jobs, it creates businesses, it creates tourism, it creates opportunity. My vision is not simply to preserve Caribbean culture. My vision is to build Caribbean economic infrastructure. Infrastructure that increases visibility, infrastructure that creates partnerships, infrastructure that circulates wealth within our communities, infrastructure that can be replicated in cities across the entire United States, because that's the future that I see with AI. So, here are three practical uses. If you have a not for profit, here are three practical uses that you can use to expose your not for profit today. Sponsorship decks. You can use AI to improve your sponsorship outreach. For instance, I was on my way to the grocery store, and there was a gentleman from La Preferita doing a demonstration outside, and I simply walked up to him and asked him for a business card. And if you use Chat GPT, all you have to do is take a picture of that take a picture of that business card, upload it to Chat GPT, and say, would this make a good sponsor for the event that I'm doing? And if so, what would you think would be the best way to outreach to that person? And it drafted the email that I needed to send. You can use AI to create better presentations. And Canva is an awesome, awesome tool. I think it was Dr. Melissa who was talking about Canva for the schools. Canva is a great tool for the small business and the small not-for-profit organization. It helps you eliminate the cost of having to deal with a graphic designer. And if all else fails, get a little 16-year-old. They know how to manipulate all of that stuff. You can also use it for lead generations with emails. Remember, I told you, all I did was uploaded it to ChatGPT, and it wrote the email for me, introducing me to the gentleman from La Preferita, and to let him know that I wanted to get a sit down with him to see how best we could possibly work together and collaborate on some future event. So the real question is, what problems are you uniquely able and qualified to solve? Because of your experience, because of your culture, because of your community, because of your story. AI cannot replace any of those things. It can only help you amplify them. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you, and I want to leave you with one final thought. Your lived experience is data or data. Your relationships are data. Your culture is data. Your wisdom is data. And you know that all these large language models, AI, is trained on data. Artificial intelligence doesn't replace any of that data. It simply helps you to organize it, scale it, and share it with the world. I am Deon Lopez. Today, I proudly stand before you as the Caribbean AI concierge and the AI infrastructure strategist. And my mission is to help Caribbean entrepreneurs, organizations, and communities use ethics, AI systems, and responsible innovation to increase visibility, strengthen infrastructure, and create economic opportunities. I thank you